YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage back in yet another Total War Warhammer battle. That's right. I like bringing you the Warhammer battles. So we're going to get the Red Duke flying here, and we're going to see Musion. Musion's got the Claw of Nagash, a front line of 3 Graveguard. No Sternsmen, interesting. Varix Reavers out on the flank, Skeleton Warriors in the back, 2 Horrors flanking the Claw of Nagash, and a Black Knights with Lances and Barding. Which is probably fine versus the Dwarves. The Red Duke is going to probably start trying to chase this. Whoa, there's an organ gun back here. Yep, so the organ gun's going to keep the Red Duke at bay for sure. And this gyrocopter does not have brimstone guns, so it won't be great versus the Red Duke. It could be really good versus the Crypt Horrors, but there's all these bats and stuff too. So the gyrocopter's probably going to struggle. Look at this dwarf infantry line though here. Let's see. Longbeards, warriors, dwarf warriors, longbeards, crumbling guard. And let's see. Red Duke moving out to the flank. I bet he has Winds of Death. Gaze of Nagash, Raise the Dead. Yep, Wind of Death. Oh, I can see what he's doing. There's a perfect line of dwarf infantry for this here too. Let's see if the dwarf player falls for it. It looks like the, oh my goodness, yeah, so Wind of Death is easily avoidable if you're paying attention, and the Dwarf player just does not see it here. Oh my goodness. This is just absolutely brutal. All the way up the Dwarf line. It didn't actually kill a lot of unit models, and I think it's because the Dawi have, yeah, their magic resistance. Wow. Fortunate for them that they have that magic resistance, but look at the damage done to the Dawi before the battle ever starts. They can thank their magic resistance for being alive right now, because had that been any other faction, that would not have been the case. Look at these skeleton warriors getting wrecked by the gyrocopter. It has 37 kills. The low armor, it makes sense that the gyrocopter would be good. Here's the bats, though. They have a 100 speed, the fell bats. The gyrocopter's faster, but it gets caught, and now it's not going to be able to get away. Might be able to take a single bat in melee. I don't know if it can take 2 bats in melee. It looks like it's going to run for it. Organ gun is shooting at the Claw of Nagash, I think, but no major damage. Or no, I think it's shooting at the Crypt Horrors. There's Slayers on either flank, trying to keep the units in the back safe. The Crypt Horrors are going to come slamming in. Here comes the Claw of Nagash. The Claw of Nagash could probably break through the line, but it's going to have to watch out for the Slayers as well. Another Wind of Death because the Dwarf player hasn't even moved. That's a lot of magic, so there must have been a lot of starting winds of magic, and it just goes right through the Dwarf line once again. So there are very few dwarves, and it didn't do a whole lot of damage to the vampire units. So 2 Wind of Death spells here, leaving the Red Duke with 60 kill. The gyrocopters are being shut down. Over here, the Grumbling Guard, though, is holding on strong. And we've got a Thane here holding out against the Horrors. A Rune Lord in the center. There are 2 Thunderers as well, but they are now under huge threat from the Black Knights with Lances and Barding. Are going to be a very good infantry killer on the charge. So there you go, the Lances and Barding coming in. Varix Reavers should be out on the other flank probably. Yep, they've already gotten a rear charge in, and the Slayers are coming after them now. But yeah, these Knights with Lances and Barding are going to get a ton of kills over here on this flank, and killing Thunderers is going to be a really good move for them. The Trollhammer Torpedo, which I didn't notice earlier, is completely tied down by zombies, so always a risky pick. It's extremely good versus Crypt Horrors and other monsters, but it's just so easy to shut down. They would have to figure out some way of making the Trollhammer Torpedo more viable for people online. It's actually extremely good in campaign because the AI is not near as good at stopping it. So the Trollhammer Torpedo in campaign is one of my favorite units to recruit as the dwarves, because you can just absolutely ruin like chaos armies and other stuff that relies on a lot of monsters and monstrous units. Same thing with the vampires. I mean, you can put massive beating. It's good against cavalry here too, and look at it racking up kills. It may be just getting zombies, but it's good against large units basically. And it gets a few kills over here, but then it's going to get hit by the Red Duke. The Trollhammer Torpedo, though, definitely a favorite unit of mine. Not my, like, I don't know, I have lots of favorite units, but it is a good one. You can see him still trying to fire while the Red Duke is beating on them. And over here, there's a lot of crumbling vampire units. I guess the Dragonback Slayers have come in and started to do their thing here. some of the vampire units to cease to crumble there, and the Claw and Nagash, as it's parked here, will slowly eat away at these Dragonback Slayers, who are in here getting a lot of kills. Look at that, the Thane survives all the Cryptors and pushes back. The Rune Lord's still very much alive, so battle appears to be in favor of the vampires, but it's not over yet. But this Black Knight, if it can come shut down the regrouped Thunderers, that's going to be huge. Get them off the battlefield. Rune Lord's holding out against some Graveguard, and like I said, the Claw of Nagash just needs to park here, and the Dwarves are not going to have any answer to the Claw of Nagash if they would have gotten rid of the Thunderers, but the Vampire player did not. And he may end up paying for it, we'll see. Yep, okay, the Lances and Barding now heading that way, but they've got hit by a Rune of Wrath and Ruin as well. But they will make it to the Thunderers and should be able to kill it, which again means that the Claw of Nagash is going to be unstoppable at this point. Yeah, it's going to be completely unstoppable. So the Dwarf player is well and truly dead, in the sense that there is nothing to catch the Claw of Nagash, and it slows down enemy units on top of that, so it is over for the Dawi. So now, as their proud fight to the finish, see the Dragonback Slayers cutting their way through a lot of zombies, but eventually they'll fall apart. And it's going to be a Pyrrhic victory for the vampires. That was a fun replay. 2 wins of death in the same battle, which is pretty cool. Red Duke picking up 72 kills because of it. Now, I've seen a lot more kills from win to death, but it depends on the units. The Dwarf units with their magic resistance, you saw how good it was there. It took 2 wins of death to take out the Dawi there. And it was a pretty direct hit with the wins of death, too. So pretty crazy that the Dwarf player, so anytime you come up against the Vampire and you see their Lord kind of making their way out to your flank, yeah, they're up to something. So the Wind of Death is extremely strong, but it's also extremely easy to avoid unless you're locked down in combat. And the best way to avoid it is to make sure that your units are staggered into combat so they're not in a straight line, because the Winds of Death relies on that straight line. Or you can trick your opponent, right? You can sit there and act like an idiot, like you're about to get hit with the Winds of Death, and then as soon as you see the spell start to cast, you move your guys at the last second, and it wastes a ton of magic from the vampires, which means that they can't raise the dead as much, or they can't heal as much. So Winds of Death is definitely a risk-reward spell. I like it in the sense that it's extremely powerful if used right, but it's pretty damaging if you use it wrong too, because you'll lose a ton of your Winds of Magic. So I think it's a pretty cool spell, and I like the way it's balanced in. I like Pit of Shades as well. It has a cool purpose, and what they did to some of the Vortex spells, there's other spells that can be useful now. Like so, for instance, if I go do, yeah, I got enough time because that was a fairly short battle. Let's give you an example. So if I get, let's see, does she have Purple Son of Zerus? No, because I think she needs the other lore. But let's grab Manny, because he can be the best tester. This where's our vampire counts. So Manfred, where you at there? Don't need aspect. The Purple Son of Zerus is the one I want to show you. I'm going to take all the other spells off just to make it simple to see what I'm doing. Abilities, whatever. Abilities are fine. Let's put Manfred up on the dragon. And I'm going to just give you all a quick demonstration. I'm going to put a ton of skeleton spears here on the ground. And we're going to go to the Glacial Lake, because it'll be a better map to show you what can happen in the right scenario. Again, I'm going to be showing you an ideal scenario, but if we take a look at the spell itself, let's go to unit info, and then the Lore of Death, my bad. So the Purple Son of Zerus disrupts formations. It's strong versus multiple units. It doesn't say anything about being good versus armor, so it's probably better versus like blobs that, it's probably just good against blobs in general. Now, again, the 11-second version, and when you overcast now, remember there was it goes to 22 seconds, and it also slows the vortex down. And this was an attempt by Creative Assembly to make the vortex spells more predictable and hence more useful. So let's do a bit of a test here. I'm just going to throw the Wood Elves in here. I don't have the No Lord mod in right now, so I'm just going to throw the Wood Elves with a whole bunch of Eternal Guard just as a example. They're kind of a mid-tier unit in terms of armor and everything, but I want a ton of them in here so that you all can see the impact. And an overcast Son of Zerus does take a lot of magic, but I just want to give you this quick example in terms of how it all plays out here. We want to blob up the enemy as much as possible, so I'm going to deploy next to the lake here and kind of create a big blob. We've got a lot of winds of magic, so that's good. Okay, this should be a good spot to create a choke point. That's why I picked the glacial lake, because you can use the lake to create a big choke point for the AI, and they tend to just blob up on you. Alright, so we want to let the AI get really good blob going, at least in one area. It's better when you get kind of a big round blob of units. Let's try something different real quick. It's in the battle. I'm going to deploy a little bit differently so that hopefully we get a much thicker blob. Just to kind of show you again what the maximum potential is. I should have hit rematch. Sorry, my bad. We're going to load back in. I'm going to do this just slightly differently so that I just want to see what the maximum potential is for like this purple sun, because I've heard that it's back and I've seen people use it on both infantry and cavalry in battle, and it's been fairly useful in a narrow range of scenarios. Like, it doesn't happen a ton. Let's start the battle. I think the AI will just kind of blob up all over me here if I do this. I don't think they're very good at outflanking with infantry. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so the AI is going to blob up pretty good right here. So I just narrowed my deployment, and it's going to, I think, lead to the AI having, yep, there's going to be a significant blob over there. Alright, so this is a fairly ideal scenario, and again, the purple sun should move slower now. I'm going to come cast it from this direction. It is 17 magic to overcast it. And here comes Manny von Karstein. I'm going to cast it up here as close as I can to the enemy units. Let's see how it does in terms of direction. Is it very predictable? So there's the purple sun. It's sucking up a lot of guys. You can see it does pretty good damage to the infantry it touches, and it moves relatively slow. So if there is a decent concentration of enemy troops, yeah, the purple sun's going to do immense damage. And it does move pretty slow there and fairly predictably. So it gave Manfred 75 kills. Of course, that was a massive blob. But there, it just gives you an idea. So you see how much slower, like, so the spell started like right here and only ended up like right here. So it's a much more concentrated area in terms of, hey, look, it almost looks like a smiley face. There we go. So, in any case, yeah, it ends up being a much smaller area that the spell concentrates into, which is what makes it more effective. So you can use stuff like Purple Sun of Xerus. Again, in the campaign, it's going to be very useful because the AI is pretty easy to get to blob up like that. In multiplayer, it's going to be a little harder to get your opponent to fall for something like this, but it can happen. Especially, I mean, since Warhammer can sometimes devolve into blob fights pretty quickly if you kind of trick your opponent properly. It's just something that tends to happen. Let's do another one here and see how it behaves. It's a really cool looking spell. I got some of my own troops there, so let's see. Come on, go left, go left, go left. It looks like it wants to go, it went right again. And now it's actually kind of just sitting in the same spot. And it's dragged more and more units in, some of my own included. Yeah, that one kind of went like a little bit back to the left as well. It's really getting my own units pretty good at that point. But Manfred picked up a few more kills. So yeah, anyway, Vortex spells, slightly more predictable. Wind of Death, you know, kind of has its purpose. And I commend CA for changing the Vortex spells the way they did. It makes sense, and we'll look at some of them in more detail soon. I think that they're certainly more usable. I need to test a little more before I say whether or not it needs to be changed further, but I thought it was an interesting change and just something to remind you guys about that happened in the last patch. Hey, if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more, make sure to click my logo down in the bottom right hand and subscribe. It helps me out a lot when you do, helps me grow, and I love making content for you. And the more of you are, the more the merrier, right? Just makes it a lot of fun for me. So appreciate you being here and watching this. Appreciate MSI sponsoring the build that I'm recording with. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I will see you all soon.